Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. I'm Rosita Greco. I'm a senior archaeologist working from MOLA, Museum of London Archaeology. And I'm going to switch off the camera so you can focus on the slides. I'm going to show you. Let me know if you can see already the PowerPoint. Okay, so this is the latest site project where I was involved in. The title is From the Parish Workhouse to the St. Pancras Hospital, the understanding life of the poor people of St. Pancras in the 19th and 20th centuries. Just to introduce you the topic today, recently MOLA was excavating at this location, St. Pancras Hospital, where the Oriel partners are developing a new center for eye care, research and education. This talk is split into sections. First, I will discuss the context of the work at the site and the historical context. And secondly, I will talk about the archaeological evidence that shows us how St. Pancras Parish Workhouse became the St. Pancras Hospital. To start with, it is important to locate the site. St. Pancras Hospital is situated in the borough of Camden, in a very convenient area. Two of the main stations of London, King's Cross and St. Pancras, are only a few kilometers in the south, and at north there is the Camden tube station. Very close to the site there is St. Pancras Church, which gives St. Pancras Hospital its name, and it has ancient origins back in the 4th century. The hospital, here you can see the west entrance from St. Pancras Way, is part of the Camden and Islington NHS Foundation Trust, and it is specialized in geriatric and psychiatric medicine. The archaeology works were undertaken where this picture shows, but next door. This is part of the existing entrance you can see today. But something is changing. A new project to deliver advanced eye health care in London started in the beginning of this year, 2023, last year actually, 2023, and the new department will be ready to be used in the 2027. This is the project. The project is Oriel, is the joint partnership between Moorfield Eye Hospital NHS Foundation Trust, the UCL Institute of Ophthalmology, and Moorfield Eye Charity that will move services from Islington to a new integrated center for advancing eye health on part of the St. Pancras Hospital in Camden, site in Camden. In this slide, you can see on the right a 19th century building of the Moorfield Eye Hospital in Islington, the original one. Why is MOLA involved in this project? MOLA was involved in the first phase of the project when some buildings of the hospital were demolished. This is our job as part of the legal planning process founded by Section 106 program to monitor the construction process during watching briefs and intervene whenever we found anything interesting. Anything means evidence of a previous phase hidden under the floor, and it is this which need to be recorded. In this picture, we have a plan of St. Pancras Hospital, and we can see the buildings involved in the new eye care hospital department. This one with the red boundaries. We can see the buildings around. Basically, we have St. Pancras Ways in the left. Granary Way on the north, and still stand buildings of the hospital at east and south. But what was there before the hospital? Mola did the first record of the standing buildings before the development work started, and the research of the area was made in the same initial phase. So, from the English archive, a number of maps and documents gave us a picture of the life in that specific area. Historical sequence of life in this area. Here, let's see the evolution of the area from the 1746 John Rock map, where we can see there was just field in the red boundaries. With a workhouse actually situated to the north of the site, so was not involved the area, the Oriel area. Almost one century later, in the Greenwood Plan of the 1827, a building is present in the area. This is the first St. Pancras workhouse built in the 1809, and it has replaced the previous workhouse that was in the north. This change reflected a need to improve the administration of poor relief in the area. The building was designed by Thomas Hartwig and was described as a small row of houses with high red brick wall in front, through which is an entrance gate surmounted by a lamp. But let me say something about the workhouses, the history and the timing of the workhouse. Victorian workhouses symbolize how London parishes were attempting to follow the 1782 Relief of the Poor Act, and afterwards the more strict 1832 Poor Law Act. The Industrial Revolution had caused both urban expanses and extreme population increase. So people facing poverty and unable to find work had little choice but to take residence at these institutions. In return for free meals and a place to sleep, people living in the workhouse had to work. They often ended up doing repetitive tasks or hard labor. One of the most common jobs was to untwist all the ropes all day in the oakum rooms, until the ants were literally bleeding. So, saying about the repetitive tasks of the hard labor, people were doing. Other works could include sewing or even breaking rocks. The inmates were given work to ensure they weren't being lazy and taking advantage of free benefits. It was tough life. This image on the right perhaps exaggerated this, but the societal concerns were real. The St. Pancras Workhouse, so the workhouse we studied, was inaugurated in the 1809 and designed to accommodate 500 people. Several important modifications were added, including an infirmary just 3 years after the workhouse was opened. This meant that the workhouse played a vital part in offering free health care to the poor. As the population of Camden continued to grow in the 18th century, so did the population of the workhouse. By 1857, the number of residents varied between 1,500 to nearly 1,900, and another infirmary was added in the 1849, and an extension to the rest of the workhouse was added, built in 1880. A picture of workhouse was very well shot in the movie Oliver Twist, inspired by the Charles Dickens novel, which was originally published in 1837-1838. His work captured our imagination around the reality of the hardship of living workhouses. Some paragraphs cannot be excluded from scrutiny. For instance, in 1865, we know from a review of The Lancet, which was a well-recognized medical journal, there were 232 people in the infirmary, 746 people in the infirm wards, and 116 people in insane wards. This review praised the large light rooms and good airflow, as well as the fact that 16 paid nurses worked there. However, they could find only 2 medical officers for the whole workhouse, which they believed couldn't not possibly provide a proper level of care. They also found some bad hygiene issues, a lack of towels and baths, some toilets that didn't flush, and uncomfortable beds. They looked at the rates of epidemic disease and found there were epidemics of measles in multiple years, and one recent particularly severe epidemic of smallpox. While St. Pancras Workhouse was clearly an important medical provider, there was no one closely monitoring the quality of care. Back to our old maps, we can see the additional structures in the Stanford plan of the 1871. So yes, a central kitchen and laundry, which was not present in the previous map. I would like you to focus in the shape of this first building, the workhouse of the 1809, which have this orientated north-south shape with a northern wing and a southern wing, which is unfortunately out of our boundaries, because we'll back on this shape later. This is a picture of 10 years later, where we can see the parish map, the massive extension of the area, and the proper building involved in the complex. This picture from 1901 gives us a quite good idea of the situation. Men and women were separated in all their activities. Here, women having their dinner. In this other picture, we can see men having their dinner. Likely this will be in silence and during a specific short time. Interestingly, the workhouse continued to house people up until 1929, when the Local Government Act allowed the buildings to be turned into hospital. It was adapted into an NHS hospital in the 1948. So far I gave you an introduction, a context, thank the historical maps, all the information we got from the archives. But from this moment, the approach will be about the archaeology and the stratigraphic evidence. This means from the latest thing we found digging towards the untouched natural earth below. We started our investigation in December 2023 with 3 evaluation trenches. This was to understand the archaeological potential. 6 buildings were part of the hospital, which will be part of the new High Care Hospital Center, and 3 trenches were dislocated in this area. Once we realized that the archaeological potential was quite high, we decided to do a mitigation monitoring of all the excavation of the buildings. These are the MOLA areas. So, MOLA was monitoring the excavation of 28 areas, which all of them gave us archaeological results, as you can see. We had to split the areas to work with other contractors to make things easy. This is what MOLA expected to find. This is a combination of different plans. There is a plan from the earlier phase, is in green. You remember I show you the north-south oriented buildings from the workhouse of 1809 with the northern wing. So this what we expected from this earliest building was master offices in the central part and female wards in the northern wings and other areas like the open rooms, nursery kitchens. And from a second edition, 1871, in violet, we can see additional rooms we were expected to find. This is the archaeological excavation results plan. So this is what we actually found. The area was severely disturbed by new concrete foundation, but still we were able to find very great results. In orange is the first phase of 1809. So the building was orientated north-south plus the northern wing. We actually found the master offices in the central part over here and the female wards in the northern wing. Plus the following later additions, a second phase in 1830. Is everything at this moment approximately because this is provisionary results because we're still waiting for specialist results. So maybe the final result can be slightly different. So the phases can be slightly different, but this is quite good result to be a priori results. So this is an extension, a second phase extension. Then there was a third phase of extension, like the building we saw in the Stanford plan of the 70s, 1871. So the central addition and more modern buildings from the 20th century were added in light violet. So, from the demolition of the wall to the record of the foundation, when archaeologists were on site, they monitored the works on site. So once the standing walls were gone, we were able to see under the floor the foundations. In this case, we were able to see the reuse of foundation walls because what we think is modern can be just the standing walls, can be from a late phase, but what happens quite often, especially in this site, is the reuse of previous foundation walls. Another important thing to see to date what came from before, what came later, is to focus on the truncation because some part of the buildings were cut by new extensions. This is a good example because we have a little drainage, which was definitely truncated by a second phase, which was then truncated by a third solid foundation. Back to our plan, I want to show you different phases in these pictures. Like, for example, in the light violet, I recorded the most modern buildings, which were used in the 20th century with the use of concrete mostly, as you can see. Then rooms from the first phase, like this, can show us how very well preserved there was this room, for example, with a fireplace on the back, still there standing. This is part of the orange phase, the 1809. Or this room from the six half basement rooms, very well preserved in brick wall, brick floor. Or I would like to mention as well this corridor in Yorkstone floor. So from the fourth phase, there is this picture from the north part of the Oriel area, of the excavation area, where were not preserved very much earlier space, but this building we can see is from the 20th century. This is also because something happened. I'm talking about the Second World War and the bombing. This plan here, for example, is from the 1940, so just before the bombing. And this building here, which is the northern part of the excavation area, for example, was subjected to a damage beyond repair, almost total destruction. So, for this reason, as you can see, we were not able to find earliest phases. But in that same area, under a redeposit of nature of about 1 meter, 1.5 meters, we found a drainage system which was predating the first workhouse of the 1809, predating or related to that construction. This drainage system was running all the way along the site. With this picture here, I would like to show you. This is the area of the site, Oriel site, between St. Pancras Way and Granary Street. Just after Granary Street, there was the Granvino Canal. Basically, this canal was made in the same years of the first phase of the St. Pancras workhouse. So what happened was that probably the material, the natural used, taken off from the construction of the canal was redeposited in the northern part of our excavation area. And for this reason, we have this redeposit of nature, which is about 1 meter, 1.5 meters. So we can see here why we had this particular situation that was not on the south. The drainage system was related, so with these constructions. Here, I'd like to show you the drainage system I was talking about. Consider that the canal is here, is about here, and this is St. Pancras Way. This is the first phase of the workhouse, so this is what we call the pre-1809 drainage, or related to. Here I would like to show you some picture from the third phase of the workhouse. This is the southern additional buildings, and these foundation walls were reused in terms of foundations and also functions until the hospital. For example, here you can see a sockway, and several tanks were found in this building, southern building, and these were the laundry rooms made in the late 19th century, and they were the laundry rooms of the hospital as well. So basically, sockways, tanks, the function of the laundries were reused in during the following phase, I would say, during the hospital life. This is a picture of washing machines at the St. Pancras workhouse. So probably in those rooms. The hand excavation around this sockway gave us a large amount of pottery fragments, and I would like to show you the fragments. We found the pottery of the workhouse with the institutional inscription, Guardians of the Poor, St. Pancras, Middlesex Workhouse. So this institutional crockery were probably found in the backfill of the construction of the 1880 additional rooms building. And they probably were the plates and cups were used by these women in this picture, which is really, really interesting. Second phase of the workhouse is the additional parts from the first phase. And in this picture, we can see the truncation of a third phase and a fourth phase. So what helped us to give a datation is also the material, the bricks, the form, the mortar, the level of the walls, basically the foundation walls. In this case, we can see that this concrete base, more solid, was later, of course, is truncated the previous wall, and then the latest phase, which is the concrete. Let's go to the first phase of the workhouse, the 1809, which is the north-south orientated building, where we exposed the master offices. These two rooms you can see here, these are two of the master offices rooms, and they, of course, been damaged by future later foundations, but they can still give us the idea of the elegant rooms, these York stone floors, which were used from by masters. This is another example of first phase rooms with steps to go to the half basement, but they were unfortunately disturbed by modern truncation pipes. Here we are facing north side. This is the west end of the first phase workhouse, the sixth half basement rooms, which were very interesting because the floors were very well preserved. we had a prior examination of the bricks. We realized that there are reused bricks from different factories, basically. And here there is an example of a brick. It's not very legible, but this is a cross type because there is a cross in the middle. Yeah, these rooms, they were probably storage for coal because we found soot all around the walls, and yes, is in the laboratory for further examination. But yeah, this is the prior idea. This is another picture showing the first phase of the workhouse, truncated by several different phases and modern phases. So, York stone floor, brick stone floors, and then a second phase of third phase, actually with a concrete base and brick wall and very modern foundations in concrete, well, which distorted completely. We had the pleasure to have on site a geomatics team which provide us drone pictures. So we had the possibility to have 3D models, and I would like to show you a 3D model of this southern area. Okay, so these were two of the half basement rooms. The other four, they were towards south. As I told you, for general works, we had to split in the 28 areas to give the opportunity to the other contractors to do their works. So we have the 3D model of this area here. So it's very interesting how we can see the truncations at the different levels, so of the rooms. Another interesting part, rooms of the first phase workhouse, was the northern part. In the northern wing, I was telling you about the female wards. This is one room of the female wards, and is very interesting for several reasons, because it's of course very well preserved, but we have still in situ this blue plaster, which you can see in this zoomed photo, a fireplace absolutely intact, and a drainage system of heating under the floor, which was quite unique. In this room here, we didn't find any floor, but probably there was a York stone floor, as we can see from this corner. There is a York stone over here. It was probably removed. But let's have a look at the 3D model of this room as well. This room is exactly the same, this other one here on the left, and as we can see here, there are remains of a fireplace as well, and let's go in. Same drainage system, probably, yes, exactly, water was running into. because we found little tanks once we removed these to confirm the idea. The other side was running under the fireplace. The corridors around were preserved the Yorkstone flooring, so was missing only inside the two rooms. Here you can see as well the blue plaster and modern truncation, like this drainage are cutting our rooms. On the east, these are additional rooms, so probably for a following phase, which were used to be supplement of the first rooms. Let's back to the PowerPoint. And thank you for listening. If you have any question, please let me know.